People, Deluded, I'm back again. Welcome back to another edition of the Deluded podcast with myself, DG. There ain't nobody else here. I hope you're all doing well and safe on this Friday morning, people. I hope you continue to stay in good spirits and all those things there as we face what we're facing globally. Now, you lot will always notice, or I don't know if you notice, because I notice it in myself. Whenever the Premier League's back from an international break, I compare my voice and the way I speak the week before to now, and I definitely feel a bit more upbeat. I definitely feel more entertained. I definitely feel more excited knowing the Premier League is back. Not gonna cap people, we've seen some good games and some interesting moments during this international break, but I'm not a fan of it. I don't think it should have been done, especially with what we're facing globally. I don't think it's the smartest idea to have people flying about unnecessarily with no end goal. You know, the Nations League, you can say it's competitive. We all know it's a marketing tool. There's no Euros or World Cup qualifiers, to my knowledge. Forgive me if I'm wrong, to be played. So it is what it is. Obviously, if you saw in relation to England, you know, every day that goes by, I question if Southgate is the man for the role. I don't know what his over-reliance on Mason Mount is. I like Mason Mount as a player, but I don't know what his obsession with him is. I don't know what Jack Grealish has done. You know, it's a manager's decision, but it's a bit baffling to play well and then not play twice again the next two games. And obviously, he did appear quite rattled in the press conference as well, Southgate. You know, I don't think he rates Grealish. And don't get it twisted, if I was a manager, there would be a few players, you know, it's all about trust. So you're not going to let your opinions on players get swayed between their form here and there. And you can't just pick 11 players based on merit, based on your knowledge of them. You can't pick 11 players just based solely on form. You need a balance. I don't get that from Southgate. I don't think it's a balance of players that are playing well for their club. Yes, Grealish has been in there, but we just spoken about him. Yes, Calvert-Lewin's been called up and things like that. But I think it's just relying on people he knows, really, man. I think Calvin Phillips deserves to be there. But I just think his team is way too negative. You know, you're playing the way he goes about it. I can't make sense of it, and it's really getting annoying. Southgate being our gaffer, really, and he hit back. To be fair, he hit back at comments. He said, "We gave another two 20-somethings their debut against Denmark, alongside Mason Mount, Declan Rice, and Calvin Phillips, who have had 4 games in the Premier League, along with Harry Kane and Rashford up front." So I think we've been pretty bold in many of our decisions over a long period of time. I think we've been top scorers in the World Cup. We were top goal scorers in the Euro qualifiers, and we've been to 2 semi-finals. We've blooded any number of young players. I suppose I would point to that body of work, but it's for others to have that opinion. I'm not really too concerned. I leave the camp frustrated that 2 decisions have cost us the game against Denmark, but in the end, I'm so proud of what the players have done and the way they've been across 10 days. They're a joy to work with. They are growing in resilience. They know how the level of training has to be every day. They know what's expected of each other. They fight and dig for each other, and their performance with 11 and with 10 against Denmark was very mature and, in my opinion, a very high level. Fair enough, you know, you were top goal scorers, but we're not playing with any real fluidity. We don't really see a system. We don't really see building blocks. We just see a bit of randomness, really and truly. And, you know, he has to experiment, see who's at it. That's why I don't mind some of these call-ups and some of these decisions. But it doesn't look like there's a way of playing a central core of players and then we move from there. It doesn't look like there's freedom within a framework. It just simply looks like Southgate is winging it. But fair play to him. Here's what it is. You know, it's in my best interest for you to succeed because I want England to bring home the Euros. Do I think that's going to happen with the French and the Germans, etc.? Of course not, but one can hope. Now, if you've all seen, you know, Harry Maguire, now it's an interesting one. You know, Man United fans are probably sick to death of that name. He started the season terribly, you know. Yes, clearly off-field pressures have probably affected him. Maybe previously the price tag going into United affected him. This season, you know, it hasn't been well. He's been terrible for club. It's carried him on to country. You know, when you're playing terrible at club form and all the scrutiny is on you, sometimes the best thing that can happen is an international. It's a release. It's a different environment. It's continued with it. He's still making mistakes. He looks like mentally he's going through a lot, and Critiquing Harry Maguire, the footballer, is one thing. He's in that environment. We have the right to critique him. It's the same energy. Before he went to Man United, he was the best thing since sliced bread, according to some. So it's the same energy. But at the same time, he is a human. You do think how longer does it need to go on before he's saved for himself temporarily? Whether, Southgate's always going to stick by his man, whether it's rightly or wrongly for sporting and non-sporting reasons. But, surely it's worth taking him out of the team for club and country. Now, Man United probably can't afford to do that. Regardless what you say about Maguire, he's probably one of the best out of a bad bunch of defenders collectively. And they realistically, whatever you say about him, you need him. So I don't know how much Oli could take him out of the team and whatnot. But it does seem like he needs that. And whatever you say about about the player, you need to look at him as a man. He's a human being, There's no getting away from it. He picked to be a footballer. But, when everything's going right, everything's going amazing. And when everything's going terrible, it's going terrible. And whether I like Harry Maguire or not, I never like to kick a man when they're down. I never like to see somebody failing, to which he is. I would say this to him. He needs to remember in his darkest of times, in his darkest of moments, he's a Premier League winner. He's played Premier League football. He's come through at Sheffield and things. So there is some ability in you. You need to find that deep within and pull back. It's never nice. Of course, I find it funny, him playing terrible. Of course, especially because it's not an Arsenal player playing terrible. But it's sad on a man. Because you should be smiling, You're playing for Man United, you're playing for England, you're a professional footballer. You should relish every day at work. And I think he's still like that. But let's be honest, if you're in that situation, you dread it, and there's no getting away from it. He's got friends and family. They're football fans first, so they're probably gonna tell him, effing hell, mate, you play crap. He's a professional athlete. You know yourself whether you played good or rubbish. We all know with social media, there's no turning off. For club and country, there's no turning off. Sadly, if he types in his own name right now, there won't be too many positive performances or coming up, or there won't be too many positive words to be said or positive fan cams. At the end of the day, the only opinion that should matter is his own, as long as he believes in himself. And he should only, as long as poor as you are, if Ole Gunnar Solskjaer still believes in you and Southgate still believes in you, together with what I've previously said about being a league winner, that's all you need to maintain, as hard as it is. And obviously, it does raise the question in relation to mental health. Now, I'm not going to lie, as much as I sympathise with Harry Maguire, the way I'm hearing Jamie Redknapp and all of these people talk about kind of wrapping up Harry Maguire in cotton wool, I'm not saying this right. I'm not saying this wrong, because it is the right thing to do. But it's interesting hearing the way they speak and how they're, players that go through the exact same thing. It's interesting how it changes according to whatever. Because Callum Hudson-Odoi wasn't afforded this, let's look after his mental health. Neither was Paul Pogba, There's several, neither is Raheem Sterling. So it's interesting to hear, according to who you are, the luxury that one there affords. We do need to have a debate about just accepting that players are human and maybe easing off them a bit. Maybe footballers in the future, I don't know if there's any training courses, but I do think there needs to be training courses around social media. Not how you necessarily handle it, of course, make sure you don't say dumb stuff, etc. But, not looking at it, potentially, not searching your own name, doing several things where, as a footballer, there's no turning off. You had a good game. It's great. There's thousands of clips, thousands of people atting you. But the same token is there. There's no switching off. So I probably, if I was a baller, I wouldn't have social media, to be fair with you. If people want to talk, let them talk, man. I wouldn't want to listen to it at all, because it's a madness. But moving away from Harry Maguire, from England, and staying with England slightly, Marcus Rashford, very disgracefully by the government, his plea to extend free school meals to those most in need. Children who cannot decide their reality. If they're a grown adult and they've made choices in life, I do think you should still help people. But I could say, all right, cool, they're children. Children can't help being born into wealth or poverty. Every child should have a level playing field. And, if not a level playing field, at least make sure everyone's got a decent bit of food in their belly. Kids need energy. Kids need energy for learning. I'm no scientist and all these things, but there is studies, lack of food, lack of breakfast, lack of access to fruit and nutrition affects your learning, affects your ability to comprehend things. It's not the be all and end all. Of course, there's probably some smart youths out there that just eat monster munch breakfast, night and dinner, but you get the point. So it was sad to hear that was rejected. But it's lovely to hear Marcus Rashford's petition to end child food poverty, has and provide free school meals during all school holidays, apologies, is nearing 200k names, people, just a day after it was launched. And I mean, I know I've signed it. If you don't want to sign this, then you've got a problem, people. Really and truly, if you really can't find the energy to sign a petition to at least make the government listen so children can get breakfast, what sort of person are you, man? I really have to question your morals, people. Because with this, obviously, Marcus Rashford's team or Marcus Rashford's Twitter account, I highly doubt it's him getting the figures and all that. He says it will reach 1.5 million 7 to 16 year olds who are currently missing out, people. And again, 16, you first leave school. The minimum man can get is a decent meal, people. 7-year-olds, people, come on, like 7-year-olds. Imagine there's that decent 7-year-old who wants to be a footballer, but he ain't got money to be buying breakfast, and it affects his learning, so he needs to consider something else. It's sad, people. How much things are out of your control that contribute as to your standard of life. I think it's sad in life. Is it going to change? I don't know. Who knows, man. Moving away from that, though, folks, and you lot know me, I have no place for racism. A man has appeared... Oh, sorry, people. Let me scroll down. It was in relation to West Ham and Mo Salah. A West Ham fan has been banned from football for 3 years after pleading guilty to racially abusing Liverpool star Mohamed Salah at a match in January. Bradley Truewood, 48, appeared in court on Tuesday to answer charges stemming from a January 29th match at the London Stadium. After pleading guilty, he was given a 3-year footballing banning order, fined £400, and also ordered to pay a victim's surcharge and costs amounting to £120. So he's spending about 500 quid as a result of being an effing twat, So that's an inconvenience, especially at a time with COVID, I have a lot of sympathy. This guy, I genuinely hope he loses his job. I've got no time for racism. I genuinely hope he loses his job. I genuinely hope that, people. I never wish that on people, but if you're going to be ignorant, I wish that on you. I'm not going to lie to you. So at a time where, I'm sure he's got family, he needs to watch his pounds and pennies, as we all are, you've now have to pay over 100 quid for some, as a result of probably 3 minutes of being an idiot. We know football is mob mentality. If this guy was to stand in front of Mo Salah or anybody of colour or anybody that you can be racist against, he wouldn't have that energy. We all know that's the greatest gift of football, is that we all come together. The greatest curse is that it allows cowards to hide in a mob and say things that they wouldn't say, especially to people's faces. I would rather this guy get a punch in the face, but a fine is good enough. He's been fined. People might say that's not enough. Is what it is. 3 years, people might say that's not enough. It is what it is. It's a shame because his name is going to be plastered, and I don't know if you've got children, but they're all going to know their dad's an idiot, And it's sad. You brought your family's name into disgrace. You've allowed yourself to act like an idiot, and you're just moving like a muck, really. And now, at least for 3 years, I've had this debate with people if you can actually ban people from stadiums regardless. It's another podcast. But on the face of it, you can't go and watch your beloved West Ham now for a couple of years because you wanted to be an idiot and a coward, people. Absolute waste, man. And I bet you this guy will say, I'm not racist, I got black friends, or I got this friend, I got Muslim friends, my grandma, my great grandma's boyfriend was Muslim, was from India, of Indian descent. How could I be racist? You lot know when racists are pulled up on stuff, they come out with so many stupid analogies and reasons as to why they can't discriminate. My care of my granddad's Indian or from Jamaica. How can I be racist? They come with some idiot stuff, man. So F this guy. Moving on from him and not wasting any more time on ignorance. And I can't say his name, man. Emilio Salah, Salah, the former Nantes player who sadly lost his life in a car accident. Plane accident, as you remember, a couple of years ago. A man has appeared in court in connection with the plane crash, which obviously killed him. A pre-inquest hearing was told the plane carrying 28-year-old Salah and pilot David Abbottson crashed into the English Channel in January 2019. David Henderson, 66, has pleaded not guilty to offences under the Air Navigation Order in September. The full inquest at Bournemouth Coroner's Court was adjourned until after trial in 2022. And a lot of court cases in general are being delayed to 2022 because of COVID. That probably affected it and played for such people. So we'll have to see what happens in that regards. Now, I'm sure you've all seen Gary Neville is forming part of an independent sort of board to try and bring regulations into football. He's previously said football has proven incapable of governing itself and distributing money fairly, and he's obviously joined forces in calling for an independent regulation of the game. He's trying to form an 8-man group which comprises of former board members of several footballing associations and also MPs. You know, some people that make it up include Andy Burnham, David Davis, and David Bernstein. You know, they're calling it Saving the Beautiful Game, Manifesto for Change. Apparently, the key recommendations are create a new regulatory body for football that is independent of the current structure of the game, decide on new ways of distributing funds to the wider game based on the funding formula, and fair levy payable by the Premier League. I mean, you can't that sounds like a quality. You can't disagree with that first bit. Moving away from that, set up a new and comprehensive licensing system for the professional game. Review causes of financial stress in English football, including parachute payments and salary caps. Not heard one thing about clamping down on racism and diversity within the game yet, people. Here we go. Implement governance reforms at the FA, which are essential to ensure it is fully independent, diverse, and representative of the English football game today. Not to make it a thing about race, but again, I'm sorry, but me as a young black man, you know, I don't. Football's a universal game, and colour isn't a thing. But me as a young black man, when I hear diversity, when I hear calling for change, I'm pretty sure, forgive me if I'm wrong, if I look at this 8-man team, there isn't going to be one person that necessarily reflects me in today's football. There might be people that I agree with, people that I might come with, but there's no one that directly affects me, and with that directly affects football. I say this, you know, we have to call a spade a spade. The new buzzword is diversity, especially in Black History Month. It's all diversity. What diversity? You know, look at a team like Arsenal. Go and look at the players on the pitch, people. You know, and then as you get up the levels from coaching staff to boardroom, you know, the diversity begins to phase out. Even Edu, when Edu put a picture up of how the whole transfer team was working, you know, I was happy because they confirmed the signing of Partey, and it's nothing to do with Edu. But I looked around and I said, you know, where's the diverse faces? You know, why, what is going wrong? You know, why aren't they in these positions? You know, why is it always we're seen as tools? The tools are the players, but you're not seen in any positions of power. So that diversity one is what grabbed me, because I can probably guarantee there's probably one woman, two max, one woman that's on that board is probably a middle-aged white males, with all due respect. You know, again, they need to be represented. They're a part of football, but you know, that doesn't reflect me, really and truly. So that whole diverse stuff and representative of football today is just a buzzword. Either way, it said liaise with support organisations. I don't mind that, because you want greater transparency between the fans. I don't mind if they're talking about redistributing funds and all of these things to ensure there's integrity in the game and money goes everywhere that it needs to go. Not sure for salary caps, personally, people. I don't agree with that. You know, many people calling for salary caps in their own industry wouldn't call for such. And for me, what the footballers make are pennies compared to the clubs. Do you think Ozil is going to get 350 grand a week if Arsenal weren't $1 billion company? Realist, think about it, people. We don't see people, because maybe it's because the players are the ones in our direct eyesight, but you can call them money grabbers and whatnot, but the owners of these clubs, you know, we've seen it with the way the Premier League and these owners are trying to fleece us for matches, season tickets. During this pandemic, there's been several incidences where we've shown that they lack integrity. They just simply don't care about fans, you know. And footballers earn pennies, and at least, if anything, these footballers are the ones with a closest smidge to reality. And let's remember, footballers are always killed. But who was the first set of sporting individuals clamoring around to donate to food banks, physically going around with food banks, raising stuff for causes, even with what Marcus Rashford is doing? You know, it's always shut up and stick on football. But if you shut your mouth and see what footballers are doing, it'd be decent. So in theory, all this stuff he's saying sounds good, people. It all sounds good. But speaking to Sky Sports, Gary Neville said, the principle is that we don't trust that football can govern itself and create the fairest deal for all, whether that's the Premier League, EFL clubs and non-league clubs or fans. And I will say, is Gary Neville not a co-owner of a football club? Again, that gives him a reason to be in the room. But cynics might say, is that not a conflict of interest? Surely it is, people. Who knows? Apparently, it has been proven that over this past 6 months that football has struggled to bring everyone together and proven to be incapable over a 25-30 year period of transforming the money in the game into something that works for everybody. I can't disagree with that. Apparently, clubs from League One, League Two, and the Championship have also turned down the Premier League's 50 million bailout and have told the EFL board that they will decline any help which excludes any of its members. Apparently, the Premier League has offered grants and interest-free loans totaling around 50 million to clubs in League One and League Two, but has made no funds available for clubs in the Championship. Apparently, a CEO of of one of the clubs in the Championship said that it's simply an attempt to create a divide between the Championship clubs and those in League One and Two, and it probably is divide and conquer sort of thing, people. So we'll have to see, people, but it's an interesting one as well, because if you just look at what the EFL said in a statement on Thursday, they said EFL clubs today have met by division to discuss the conditional offer put forward yesterday by the Premier League in respect to the financial support required as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. The need for continued unity across the membership base was fundamental to discussions across all three divisions, and therefore there was a strong consensus that any rescue package must meet the requirements of all 72 clubs before it can be considered in full. The league has been very clear in its discussions of the financial requirements needed to address its lost gate receipts in 2019-20 and 2020-21, and why EFL clubs are appreciative that a formal proposal has now been put forward. The conditional offer of 50 million falls some way short of this. The EFL is keen to continue discussions with the Premier League to reach an agreement solution that will address the short-term financial needs of all our clubs and allow us the ability to consider the long-term economic effects in parallel that specifically look to achieve a more sustainable EFL for the future. Which is crazy, people. And some people have even said, apparently, if you listen to Preston's advisor Peter Risdale, he said several Championship clubs could fold by Christmas unless they get funding, people. He said, my guess is there are at least half a dozen clubs that when it gets to Christmas and there's no solution, a number of them may well fold or go into administration, which is crazy, people. So yeah, it's also worth remembering Premier League clubs have rejected Project Big Picture, people, which I'm happy with. Like Arsene Wenger perfectly said, a lot of heat is directed at Manchester United and Liverpool as the two clubs frontlining, and that very well be true. But when you look in the details, this has been in the brinks for a while. It's not two clubs. It's a couple of clubs. And what some clubs have done, because of they've seen the backlash now, they're staying quiet and they're acting like they're not involved now. It's not just two clubs. As much as Liverpool and United might have wanted to make this a reality, we could not have got to this point if couple other clubs didn't agree, or if they didn't necessarily stand to benefit, didn't mind it. Let's look between the details. But nonetheless, I'm happy Project Big Picture has been rejected, because we know football is elitist. Those of you like you lot listening to this and myself, football don't look after us no more. We love football, whether we're doing season tickets, buying the new shirts. I think more expensive than all of that stuff, even though we could put our finances elsewhere, our time. We're talking about football all day, every day, whether we win, lose, or draw. I'm making videos. I'm making podcasts. I love football for what it's worth. Football is elitist. We can't, half the time that honest Arsenal fan who's been supporting the team for how many years, he can't go and watch Arsenal in the FA Cup at Wembley because everything is set up against him to get a ticket unless he knows someone that can do a thing for him, Football's forgotten about us, but still at some level I took pride in that. Football is a level playing field. It don't matter your race, your religion, your social status, your skin color. If you are the better team on that day on that pitch, you win. And I think with Project Big Picture, it takes away from that. I'm an Arsenal fan, so at some level I stood to kind of benefit from this if it was implemented. But we don't deserve to be things handed to us. It just screamed of the big six are going to bully up the thing. They're just going to be able to focus on commercial because, if any of these clubs, we all want our clubs to be the envy of the world or the league. If you want that, achieve it on the sporting front and everything takes care of themselves. It seems like several clubs want the benefits that come with that without actually doing it. And it just seems like the top six would lobby and bully everybody and just, further move them away when I like that the Premier League is, you could call it competitive, Leicester got smacked one week against West Ham. They smacked Man City the other week. Do you get it? Everyone can beat everyone. There's been a new winner in sorts. One of the hardest things is to retain the Premier League. In terms of entertainment, it's amazing. Aggression, intensity, randomness. These are all things that the Premier League has over every league. Actual quality is another debate. But I don't think this would have been good, man. So I'm happy to see it's been rejected, people. It shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have happened. So we'll have to see, man. We'll really have to see what happens, man. Project Big, for what it's worth, Project Big Picture would have seen a 250 rescue fund given to the EFL and 25% of all future revenues with the top flight simmed down to 18 teams, people. Which again, I know many people are not necessarily not against trimming the amount of teams in the league, which I've heard plenty of reasons for, plenty of reasons against, people. So it's an interesting one depending on how you look at it. We've been speaking about a lot of stuff, people, but I guess now it's time to get into the Premier League. And, the Premier League is back with a bang. Hopefully we can finally see a Merseyside derby that lives up to expectations. Liverpool and Everton fans listening, please don't kill me, but you lot know that has been one overhyped derby for many years now. I hope with Carlo Ancelotti's new team and the way they're playing, and Klopp should feel that there's a target on their back. Every team wants to see them fail. I hope the floodgates open, and I hope it's a great game for the neutrals, man. Everton have been very good since the season started. Not perfect, still a bit shaky defensively. Would love Ben Godfrey to start. I think he's a dark horse to go to the Euros personally. But I'm keen to see, man. Can Hammers do it in the big games? Can Decore make the difference in the big games? Are Liverpool still at it? Can they bounce back? Do you get it, people? It's going to be an interesting one. Very rarely do you get to say this is first versus fifth, and Liverpool are the team fifth. You can't complain from an Everton perspective. 4 games played, 4 victories, 12 points. Liverpool are with 4 games played, 3 wins. Obviously, that crazy Villa game makes them at 9 points. So it's an interesting one. Looking at the top 4, I'm sure someone probably put a tenner on this and the season isn't finished, but Everton's first, Villa's second, Leicester's third, and Arsenal fourth. I remember the days when people would say, death taxes and Arsenal finishing fourth. I'll give my life for them days again. So I'm keen to see what game that is, and that kicks off our Premier League action this week. For what it's worth, Everton are winless in 19 Premier League meetings with Liverpool, losing 8 and drawing 11 since winning 2-0 in October 2010. With that being said, Liverpool are unbeaten in their last 22 meetings against Everton in all competitions. Against no side have they ever had a longer run without defeat in their history. They've also got 22 against Aston Villa from 1981 to 1992. And, Villa ended that, Villa, the team in question, what happened the last time them two teams played. 7 of the last 8 Premier League meetings between the two teams, people, have finished level with Liverpool winning the other 1-0. Sorry, people. Yeah, have finished level with Liverpool winning the other 1-0 in December 2016. The last 3 Premier League meetings between the two sides have finished 0-0. No specific fixture in top flight history has ever finished goalless in 4 consecutive matches before. So statistically, I was backed up in saying that was one overhyped derby right now. Apparently, this is the first top-flight Merseyside derby with Everton starting the day top of the table since September 1981, when Liverpool won 3-1 at Goodison Park, thanks to goals from Ian Rush, who bagged 2, and a certain John Barnes. So we're seeing what that game has to say. Southampton are always capable of some unknown. 7th place Chelsea welcome 11th place Southampton. Southampton have won 2 games this season so far and also lost 2. Chelsea have suffered 1 defeat, drawn 1 and also won 2. They're still suffering from teething problems as a result of the mass changes they made, and there's still question marks over Lampard. But you'd expect Chelsea, apologies, to get 3 points, if you could say that. Chelsea have won 7 of their last 9 Premier League meetings with Southampton, losing 1 and drawing 1. Saying that, though, they did lose this exact fixture last season, which hopefully remains to be the case when Southampton play them as well. Come on, Southampton. We've got our boy Theo Walcott back on loan at Southampton, so go do your thing. And he's not my lad, but Carl Walker-Peters, a Spurs lad. Theo and Carl Walker-Peters, if you play, you lot are London lads. Well, I say London. Theo, you're adopted London, based on it right now. I think, is he from London? I think Theo might be from London. But either way, I want you to go and want to put one over Chelsea. Who doesn't? Following their 2-0 victory at Stamford Bridge last season, Southampton are looking to pick up back-to-back away victories against Chelsea for the first time in the league since 1985. Chelsea have won 7 of their last 8 Premier League home matches, losing 1, netting 18, conceding 4 and keeping 5 clean sheets. Since the start of last season, no side has conceded fewer home goals in the Premier League than Chelsea. 18, excluding the Premier League clubs and promoted clubs. Southampton are looking to win 3 consecutive Premier League games for the first time since a run of 4 in May 2016. So again, they're trying to put a run of games together. So let's see what happens in that regards. On Monday, you've also got Leeds versus Wolves, which, the Helder Costa derby. 8th place Wolves versus 13th place 13th place Wolves versus 8th place Leeds. That's a good game for the neutrals. I'm sure we all rock with Bielsa, and we all got a lot of time for Nuno. The only guy I don't like at Leeds is their goalkeeper, who racially abused Jonathan Lico. So I wish the worst on him in whatever regards he does. But big up Leeds, big up Calvin Phillips, very good player. Someone who I think will get a move, whether Leeds stay up or down, especially as he keeps playing for England. Apparently, Leeds have lost 3 of their last 4 home league games, against Wolves. Wolves have won their last 3 league meetings with Leeds. This is just the second Premier League campaign in which Leeds and Wolves are facing off after both being relegated in 2003-04. After losing their first home game at Liverpool on their return to the Premier League, Leeds are now unbeaten in their last 3 games. Wolves have won just 2 of their 9 Premier League meetings played on a Monday, beating Sheffield United in September 2-0 and in July beating Crystal Palace 2-0. So again, that might be a bad omen for Wolves and should give Leeds some confidence. Going to Ellen Road isn't going to be easy. On Monday as well, people, you've also got West Brom against Burnley, which again isn't the most glamorous of fixtures. 17th place West Brom against 18th place Burnley. Bielik, I always want him to do well because he's such a character. Apparently, West Brom are winless in 4 Premier League games this season, losing 3 and drawing 1. Relegation candidates. And also, interestingly, West Brom are 17th and Burnley are 18th coming into this match, while the bottom 2 sides, Sheffield and Fulham, are also facing each other today. This is the first time bottom 4 Premier League clubs have faced off against one another on the same day in the Premier League since the 13th of September 2014. West Brom have conceded 13 goals in 4 games this season, which is quite poor. And again, if they want to stay up, going to need to shut up shop. Prior to winning 2-1 in their last away meeting with West Brom in March 2018, Burnley had lost 9 of their last 10 league visits to the Hawthorns. West Brom have lost just 1 of their last 6 Premier League meetings with Burnley, although it was the last time they met in the competition in 2018, people. Make of that what you will. Leicester play Aston Villa, people, and that's due to be an interesting one. Villa firmly sit in the top 4 right now in second place. Leicester are third, so it's a top half clash right now. Wonder what that game is going to have. That's a good game for the neutrals. Leicester have won 4 of their last 5 Premier League meetings with Aston Villa. Aston Villa have won just 1 of their last 11 away to Leicester. None of Leicester's last 8 Premier League meetings have been drawn, with the Foxes winning 4 and losing 4. Villa are looking to win their first 4 Premier League games in the campaign for the first time since 1930-31, when they scored a record of 128 goals within a single top season, but finished second to Arsenal. So if that means Arsenal are going to win the league, why not, people? Also worth mentioning, Aston Villa are unbeaten in their last 7 Premier League games, people. So they've got a bit of a run going and whatnot. Sheffield United will face Fulham, and Sheffield United, it's not been the best of seasons, 19th versus 20th Fulham. Both teams need to get it together, people. It's as simple as that, people. London clubs have lost each of their last 10 Premier League visits to face Sheffield United at Bramall Lane. Fulham have won both league meetings with Sheffield. The last time the teams faced each other in 2017-18 was in the Championship. The home side, has won both previous Premier League meetings between the 2 sides. So we're keen to see what that one has. Sheffield have lost their last 7 Premier League games. They've never lost 8 league games in a row in their history, and they need to bounce back. I don't want it to happen, but as much as they love Chris Wilder and he's done great things, football's a fickle business. eight defeats, even 7 defeats. Another manager at another club loses their role without a doubt. So the question marks are going to start to be asked of Chris Wilder and his men if they don't show an improvement starting on the weekend. Newcastle against Manchester United, and I'm sure Man United just want to win and shut up shop. Newcastle are probably buzzing. They've made Saint Maximin sign a new 6-year deal. It's going to be an interesting game, and obviously I hope Newcastle win. Newcastle have won 2 of their last 3 Premier League home meetings against Manchester United. Man United lost this fixture 1-0 last season. They've not lost back-to-back games away to Newcastle since 1987. This is also the first time Newcastle are facing Manchester United in the Premier League game while above them in the table since December 2013 when they won 1-0. Newcastle have had fewer shots on target than any other side in the Premier League this season. However, they've netted 6 goals, meaning they've scored with a league-high 75% of their attempts on target so far. Man United's defence has been poor. They didn't sign a centre-half. They've got no coach that can coach them defensively, so is it any surprise? Manchester United have shipped 11 Premier League goals so far this season, with only West Bromwich Albion with 13 conceding more. It's the second most the Red Devils have ever conceded in 3 games in a Premier League season. So again, negative statistics, which doesn't make for good reading at all. You've also got Spurs against West Ham, a London derby kicking off at 4:30 on Sunday. Interesting ones. I'm sure a big talking point is Gareth Bale. He's back in training. Jose said they're going to manage him well. I think he's going to be a great addition or re-addition to the Premier League. I don't think it's going to be the same Gareth Bale necessarily breezing man out on the flanks. I still think he's going to still outpace people, but I think his game's going to change. I think he's going to play more inside. I think he's going to find more half a yard for himself, more link-up play. I think he's going to bag, he's a great player. I think he's going to do well, at least for now until his form dictates as to whether he's been a good signing or not. It gives the fans aren't in the stadium, but it gives the fans a lift. It gives the players a lift. We've got Harry Kane, we've got Son. Now we've got a world-class, top-class player in Gareth Bale. It all depends as to how fit he is, his true level, and down to Gareth Bale to prove the critics wrong. I'm keen to see as a neutral what he's on. I'm keen to see how you fit them in, because for once Spurs have good problems. How do you get Kane, Son, Ndombele, Bale into the same team? Who misses out? What sort of changes do you want to make? You've also got that Benfica striker on the bench. Right now he's a plan B. What happens when he gets chances? And I hope it don't happen in Spurs, but if he gets chances, he starts bagging. As a manager, you want good problems. A lot is said about Levy and spending money. Definitely for me under Pochettino, I didn't see a window like this sort of thing in that you're trying to address all areas. Jose can't complain. Yes, Spurs squad isn't perfect. Yes, it's, there's still problems that persist. But Levy's got his finger out and addressed almost every, I'd say only centre-half probably if I was a Spurs fan, an area I'd be looking at, Bale coming back on loan is a madness. They've signed a backup striker. Even Bale could have played up there. So immediately the pressure isn't on Kane as much and have to overplay him. So it's fully on Jose this season, in my opinion. For what it's worth, though, Tottenham have won both Premier League meetings with West Ham last season. They last won 3 in a row against West Ham with a run of 5 from 2008 to 2009, March of 2008 to December of 2009. Only Fulham with 7 have West Ham won more Premier League away games than they have against Spurs. Spurs have lost just 3 of their last 27 home London derbies in the Premier League, which is quite a good statistic. West Ham have lost 7 of their last 9 League London derbies since the start of last season. Tottenham are winless at home so far this season, scoring just once and conceding twice. This is a stark contrast to their away form, which has seen them win both games by an aggregate score of 11-3. Now, obviously, that battering Man United obviously sways that statistic. But that's a weird one. I'm sure, home form is central. I remember a season Spurs had a good year where they didn't lose at White Hart Lane, and I think they got top 4. It was that year where you really saw their back 4 or whatever it was with the 2 Belgium lads in Toby Alderweireld and Jan Vertonghen. Kyle Walker was really playing well at Spurs, and as was Danny Rose. That's the sort of form that sees you get top 4. You've also got Crystal Palace against Brighton, people. Graham Potter against Roy Hodgson's men. Crystal Palace are looking to secure consecutive league victories against Brighton for the first time since September 2011. Brighton have lost just 1 of their 5 top flight away games against Crystal Palace. At just 31%, Crystal Palace have the lowest average possession in the Premier League, while they've also played the highest percentage of long passes so far in the Premier League at 19%. Having won their opening 2 Premier League games this season, Crystal Palace have since lost their last 2 in the competition by an aggregate score of 1-6. Brighton have lost their last 2 Premier League games, last losing 3 in a row in November 2019. Apologies. And saving the best till last. Hopefully we win. Master versus Apprentice. 4th versus 14th. Never would I thought Man City would be 14th and Arsenal would be 4th. Arsenal against Man City. Last one there in 2015. Our away form against the top 6, or just our form in general against the top 6, is one of the components that's going to form a cocktail as to whether we're going to get top 4, positive or negative cocktail. We know holding leads, we know clean sheets, not drawing, starting well, playing in big games and away from home are just some of the problems. And I don't think there's been a better time to play Man City. Now we need to respect that because City have started the season a bit shaky. They've had the international break. They're going to want to hit back. They're going to be seeking vengeance. There's question marks over them. When you're backed in the wall, you either turn around and fight or you curl up. And I think Pep Guardiola wants to fight. There's question marks over him as well as collectively. I'm questioning the players. I don't think Arsenal have any divine right to win, but I think to have any chance, I don't think we should go there and sit back. I think we obviously be sensible, but have a go. Don't just respect them and say they've won leagues, they're top class players. Have a go. You look at Leeds and Leicester. In both of those games, in the first 20 minutes, both teams could have been put out of it by Man City. Man City didn't take their chances, and that's something Pep's probably banging home to the boys, but they didn't take their chances. But specific to the 2 oppositions they faced, they sat back and soaked up the pressure, and there was heart and mouth moments, and they were clinging on. But at some point, for me, it came at half time for the Leeds one, and I can't remember the Leicester one, but they stopped sitting back. They thought about the football they can play, and Leicester put them to the sword. Leeds, Pep was scared. Pep brought on how many defensive... When last did you see a game at 1-1, Pep versus a newly promoted side, and he's bringing on Ake and all these defensive choices? He knew a point at Ellen Road was a good thing because they very well could have lost that. So that proves you need to try. I've seen, City had to work very hard to lose against Leicester. They had to work very hard to draw against Leeds. We made them, they won 3-0 again after the restart against us. And that was the easiest 3 goals they've probably scored. So let's have a go. It's all about the credibility and performance. We don't shoot enough. I want to see us bloody shoot in this game. I want to see us bloody shoot. Ask question marks, because it's the first time where people expect us to lose. There isn't too much question marks on us if we lose necessarily. All of them are going to be on Pep. We're all questioning him. I've been saying it. I rate him as a manager, but he needs to put respect on his name. Use this to your advantage. There's not that on the best of days, there's hardly any fans in the Etihad. With hardly any fans being there, it's even better for Arsenal. We need to improve our away form. I hope Aubameyang gets back to goal scoring because, I think he's never gone more than 4 without scoring, and I think he's approaching that, if not already. Since he signed his new deal, he ain't scored. So, big man, patting up City again for us. Not that I'm questioning him. I want to win, but it's going to be a fantastic clash, and it is one of them gut-wrenching ones that you wish didn't come in it, but you've got to play these 2 teams twice. We've got Liverpool once out the way. Let's go and get one game against City out the way. And on a serious note, I want to beat them in the league, people, because you look at it, like I said, we've got to go into games like this and get a positive result if you want to get top 4, put more of a fight into top 4. Apparently, Man City are unbeaten in their last 9 Premier League meetings with Arsenal, drawing 2 and winning 7, since obviously losing in 2015. They've scored at least twice in all 9 of these games, people. Arsenal have lost their last 6 meetings with Man City, shipping 3 goals in 5 of those 6 games. They last had a longer losing run against opponent in the league versus Ipswich in 1974-1977. So again, negative history. Go and put it right. Arsenal have won just 1 of their last 9 away league games against Manchester City. They've lost all 4 at the Etihad against Pep Guardiola. Negative statistics that you should endeavour to go and put right. This is the third of the 4 Premier League games this season that Man City are starting a day in the bottom half of the table, as many as their previous 375 matches in the competition. Man City have won just 4 points from their 3 league games this season, their lowest total at this stage since 2010-11, meaning only twice in their league history have the Citizens lost both of their opening league home games in a season. So hopefully Arsenal will do the thing. But that's that in relation to, pre-game and whatnot. I think it's the deadline day for domestic transfers, and you're seeing a lot. You're hearing Harry Wilson could be going to Swansea or Cardiff. Casey Palmer could be going to Swansea. Joe Rodon, I can't say his name. Swansea could be making a move. I'm actually not sure if Ben Rama's deal has been completed, but we're led to believe that is done. There's a lot of things, people. But in relation to the transfer speculation, just general ones, apparently Chelsea were keen on a move for AC Milan's Italy keeper Donnarumma before signing Mendy, and could still try to tempt him to Stamford Bridge when his contract expires next summer. Dortmund are not prepared to sell 20-year-old winger Jadon Sancho in January. Harry Maguire will not ask his manager Ole Gunnar Solskjaer for a break despite the difficult start to the season. Paulo Dybala is of interest to Chelsea, who you've seen apparently they want to go for Haaland in January or when he becomes available. Paul Torres of Villarreal, the Villarreal and Spanish international defender, again is linked with Arsenal and Man United. And the Daily Express, claims Arsenal want to beat Manchester United to the £35 million signing of the 23-year-old in January. Yannick Bolasie is apparently closing in on a loan switch to Middlesbrough on loan from Everton. Swansea won 18 million from Spurs for 22-year-old Wales centre-half Joe Rodon. Manchester United midfielder Bruno Fernandes has denied criticising manager Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and his teammates when they were thrashed 6-1 against Spurs. And I'm sure a lot of you all saw, apparently there was a bust-up that led to him being substituted at half-time. Wayne Rooney's been linked with replacing Derby's manager outright as well, but their manager has their owner Mel Morris has distanced claims Philip Cocu will get the sack. And there's not really much more in terms of transfers and whatnot. So that's all I have, people. But we've been here for 46 minutes or so. I'm happy that the Premier League's back. I'm even happier that you guys have taken the time to take this in. Please make sure however you're listening to this, you make sure you hit the follow button on Spotify. You make sure you like it on YouTube. You make sure you're supporting across all socials. All the links to my socials are in the description. All the information you require is there. It's been a fantastic podcast, people. I'll probably be back on the Monday. In fact, let me not lie. Tuesday morning we go again when all the Monday games are finished and whatnot. Typically on a Tuesday and a Friday I do this little podcast thing, so make sure you put that in your diary or you set a reminder that you're always looking out for such. But it's been a fantastic time speaking with you lot, people. I'm going to keep it moving though. If you ain't had enough of me, check out my YouTube videos or my written content. Links again are in the bio. DG, I'm out.